Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Sergio Escobar, checking in to another edition of Connecticut at your service. Our purpose is to educate and engage our audience and give them a great opportunity to find out what's going on in the community. Today we have highlights of special programs in Bridgeport, and thank you for checking in once again. Shout out to everyone checking in. We have Miss Carmen. She's she's out for today, and I'm your co-host for today. But thank you for checking in once again. And we have a special guest, Villegas. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the invite.
No problem. And I see you doing a lot of good things in the Bridgeport community, especially with the educational system that you're working with right now, the Bridgeport Public Education Fund. And how long have you been a part of that program for?
Well, you want me to age myself? No, I'm joking. But I've been with the Bridgeport Public Education Fund since 2007, and I was doing some coordination of their high school mentoring programs, but also of our college assistance program. So in essence, the Bridgeport Public Education Fund has two programs. So one is a high school mentoring program, and the other, we actually follow and support our students through their post-secondary track. So it's college, certifications, the armed forces, and it's been wonderful, wonderful ride. And I miss the students a little bit, though, because I'm not in the schools as much anymore. Okay. I got elevated, if you will, because I'm going to use the term elevate, to executive director in 2018, and I am learning so much right now, but it's been fun.
That's good. So I got a chance to look at your bio, and you were born and raised in South Carolina, and you moved to Bridgeport around the age of 7. Mm-hmm. So how has that experience been for you? Making the different transitions to Bridgeport.
Similar to my college experience, it was a very, very eye-opening experience. Florence, South Carolina, at that time. I moved here February 14th, 1984 to be exact, Valentine's Day, right? And I saw all this hustle and bustle and bright lights and so much movement. I actually saw a lot more diversity here in Connecticut than I ever saw in South Carolina. So believe it or not, I didn't eat for almost 3 or 4 months. Wow. Because it was such a change for me. I'm in the South, you go, you get some pecans, or, you can get fruit off the trees. Everyone knows each other. Everyone waves and says hello. And then I move here into an apartment building, and I'm just like, Mommy, what is this? But I think it might have been, I know it was the best decision that my mother made for her family.
That's great, because I can relate to that, for the simple fact that I grew up in New York. So coming to Connecticut was just like, it's a different ball game. And just being in Connecticut allowed me to further my education, so I was able to graduate from high school, go on to a 4-year college and get my bachelor's degree. And, me and you have something in common.
Do tell.
We're alumni of Southern Connecticut State University. So tell us about your experience at Southern.
Mommy, please forgive me for sharing, but my first semester at Southern, I was a complete mess. I ended the first semester with a 0.85 GPA.
Wow.
Now, mind you, I was a student who ranked in like the top 90th percentile in the country when I took my standardized tests from 3rd grade and through high school. I did well enough on my SATs. I got into a lot of great colleges. So I thought I had it all figured out. Absolutely did not. Got there and was a complete mess. The transition from high school to college was eye-opening. It was, I'm not going to say traumatizing, but I remember a lot.
Yeah,
I'll say that. But it's also why I do the work that I do now. Coincidentally, in my senior year at Harding High School, go Presidents, I was able to get a scholarship from the Greater Bridgeport Area Foundation. Well, what was the Greater Bridgeport Area Foundation? Okay. And in that interview, I said, I want to go get a degree, come back to my community, and help young men and women who look like me. Not because they were black, but because they were in an urban setting, and knowing that there were some challenges that I faced from my transition from high school to college. So that's really why I do what I do overall, rather it's at the Bridgeport Public Education Fund or some of my community volunteerism. So it's been life-altering, so the long and short of it.
So absolutely, your first semester in college is pretty much the hardest part, the hardest semester. And, I'm the first generation of my family to go on to college. So, I, like you said, I thought I had it all packed down, and I got a real opening, I got exposed to a lot of material and content at once, and I'm like, wow, it's a big campus, and, I just found a way to get through the different challenges and obstacles. And, growing up here in Bridgeport, I didn't have a lot of resources, but once I started to get acclimated to the different organizations that helped out students, and made it easier for me to make that transition from high school to college is really key, because, you have so much materials you have to, fill out, like your FAFSA, all the, essays and all the documents that go along with, making that next step.
Your CSS profile, your senior essay, which we actually have you start in your junior year. It's just so much, and the FAFSA is every single year, right?
Yes.
Believe it or not, there are some students that don't know that. So being able to, because you had a good point there about understanding, for one, that when you get to college, there's so much more to learn that you have to really make that adjustment. So self-governing is critically important when you are, transitioning to post-secondary, no matter, even if it's college, even a career program, career-based program, so some of the technical schools, right? You still have to self-govern. You have to set aside time for you to be able to study. Set aside time to have fun. You definitely have to have fun. But I think it's more important to really develop in a way that you understand what your limits are, and also bring with you some of your morals and values, because that'll help you to make some decisions. Because if you live on a college campus, you know that you're going to come across people from all walks of life. So how do you maintain who you are at the core while still getting your education, expanding your network and your net worth? So I think it's really important to have people that you can trust, organizations like you talked about that have supported you throughout that time, knowing that if I go back or if I send an email, if I make a phone call, I know that there's someone on that other end of the phone who's going to understand what I'm going through, especially for first-generation students.
Yes, and networking is key. You definitely need to, get, make some good associates with, your professors, and get to really get to know them so they can help you out. And there's a lot of good professors I had in my career, in college career, that have, mentored me and pushed me to be the better person and pushed me to be successful. And like I said, I'm the first generation of my family to go into college, and I have my bachelor's in graphic design from Southern. So I'm looking forward to going into the master's program and helping others by teaching them the the different art fields and that different elements of art that are through education. And what are some of the clubs or organizations you were involved with when you were at Southern?
Well, actually, because of my poor GPA after my first semester, I solely dedicated my time to really bringing that GPA up. Because if you know, like I know, you have a limited time to get to a 2.0, which is basic, GPA to say, oh, this student is college material. So most of my time was spent doing that. However, once I was able to get settled and really, kind of figure it out, if you will, I was able to become a part of the social work program. We had some clubs and we would do some volunteerism. The Black Student Union, so Mr. Barber at Southern Connecticut State University, he was instrumental in getting students that had a minority background, black and brown students, opportunities, but also helping us to kind of plan different things. But most of my activity really centered around working, first generation student here, working, really thinking about what my next steps were after college and just really trying to get that GPA up so that I could graduate. I wanted to graduate with honors. I was this far away from it.
Oh, man.
But it's okay. Graduate school, like you said, we can get it done there. So Southern, send us some information, please, and thank you.
And their campus has just been, they expanded the campus so much, and it's just they added a new science department, and the campus is just wonderful. It's in a beautiful campus, and they have a great art program, and it's just, when I was going there for the open house in high school, they were in the process of rebuilding everything, so. It has changed dramatically, and they're a good school to attend. They're easy to commute back and forth. I never got a chance to stay on campus. I always wanted to, but
we'll talk later. No, I'm joking. But I was gonna ask you actually, what building did you live in? Because I lived in Wilkinson Hall, which was called Wilkie Way, kind of like the Milky Way, because all the stars lived there. No, I'm joking. But in all honesty, I would encourage any student to just get that little bit of independence from their home and from family by living on campus. If it's a semester, a year, or the whole time, I would encourage it because, like I said, there are so many opportunities to grow and to learn, but there's also opportunities to make a lot of mistakes, which I think you also can learn from. And I think that's what, when you're living on campus, you're away from your parents, you have to decide, right? You have to say, do I study or do I go out? Or what time should I study? Do I go to the library? Do I, go to work today? So that self-governing, that getting yourself up for class every day, that, attending to your, professor's office hours when you're having difficulties, right? You have to learn how to do those things. And I think, being independent of your family at times can definitely help you out. But I did come back home, so there's something to say about home as well.
Yes. Well, I never really got the chance to stay on campus. I always commuted, but I think that was, I think that it was for a reason, because if I would have stayed on campus, then, I would have never really been, I would have never been really, able to be, focused as I should have been. And that's a part of being in college, you get to experience the good, the bad, and the ugly, but and how long has this foundation been around for, the Bridgeport Public Education Fund?
Well, we started in 1983. Oh. And no, I did not start in 1983. I'm only 30. But the organization was started in 1983. The founding executive director, Mrs. Marge Hiller, she started the program, and it was really the business and civic community who came together in the 80s, because if you look back into the archives about the city of Bridgeport in the 80s and approaching the 90s, we had some difficulties with, kind of drugs. Crack cocaine was, really making I wouldn't even say comeback. It was actually just coming into communities at that time, but so was kind of gang violence, right? And that impacted the ability of young men and women to complete school, but it also impacted businesses in a way that consumers didn't feel safe, right? I don't want to go into a bank and feel like I might be robbed because of what's happening in a community, or they had to close early, so they're losing revenue. And I think that was a critical point for the business community to actually come in and say, hey, we're concerned about this educational system, and what can we do about it? For the civic community, so we had Ms. Phyllis Gustafson, or Phyllis Marsilius, and we also had Geraldine Johnson and David Carson, who were the founders of the Bridgeport Public Education Fund. And Geraldine Johnson, she was actually the first black female superintendent in the state of Connecticut.
Wow.
They all got together and said, what are we going to do? And I think that was critically important because, again, you're talking about the education system with the superintendent, the civic engagement community, volunteers, just layman people that said, we want to help. And then you had David Carson, who was then the president of, formerly known as People's Bank, at the table, and they came up with a program to really start thinking about how do we address the high dropout rate, but also the low college attendance rate. So it was kind of a twofold problem, if you will. And from 1983 till 2023, it will be 40 years.
Wow.
So we're looking forward to celebrating that. So it's going to be on our website. So make sure you check it out there when we're ready to celebrate our 40th anniversary.
Wow, we have a caller. Let's check in and see who's calling. Good evening. Thank you for calling Connecticut Agri Service.
Hi, I was just wondering, what are some of the struggles that, your organization goes through with the program of, providing aid to high school students to transition to college?
That is a great question. I'm sorry, what's your name, if you want to share it?
My name is Shay.
Hi, Shay. I think there are a lot of struggles, but I think the biggest struggle is that we want to be able to service every single student in the schools because we believe that every single child has a future, and we want to be able to help them reach their potential. But if I think organization-wide, I think it's more so of I would love to get enough funding that I could provide at least a $5,000 scholarship for every single student who commits to a university, similar to how some other states may do it, right, or other communities where they actually commit to those young men and women. And I would love to be able to do that. So I think one of our biggest challenges is not the students. It's not their academics, it's not their behavior, so I want to put that out there immediately. It's more so about the additional resources that our young men and women need, especially since so many of them are first-generation students. Great question.
Hello? Thank you.
Hello. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Have a good night.
You too.
Okay. Wow, that was good. Good question.
That was a good question, and believe it or not, that comes up often. And depending on, I'm not going to say who's asking the question. Okay, I'll pause.
Caller, no problem. Good evening. Thank you for calling Connecticut Agri Service. How you doing tonight?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
So, Miss Faith.
Hello, how are you? What's your name?
Hi, it's Carmen. How are you, Faith?
Hi,
Hey,
Carmen.
How's it going?
Good, good. So I had a question for you, Faith. I would love to talk about if you could share some of the initiatives that you're doing to kind of bring young people, to introduce them to colleges, I know that you've had resource fairs and things like that. Could you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Thank you, Carmen. So yes, the Bridgeport Public Education Fund is more than just mentoring and tutoring in the high schools. We actually collaborate with our community. So a number of other community organizations like the Workplace, 100 Girls Leading, we have the Alliance, we have so many other organizations that we network with, and to include obviously the Bridgeport Public Schools, to really provide opportunities for our young people to get registered, if it's for mental health needs, if it's for mentoring, if it's for tutoring, if they need health insurance, dental insurance, visual checks. I mean, we try to cover not just the student, but we try to provide opportunities for families to come out as well, not to just learn about what we do, but also what's available to them. But we also, as Carmen kind of indicated, we tend to do college and career fairs in the community with other organizations. We also have an Inspiration Awards every single year doing National Teacher Appreciation Week, so that's in May, where we award at least 10 scholarships ranging from $1,000 to $20,000 to educators for professional development. So we have 8 outstanding teachers, and they get a $1,000 certificate for professional development. We have 2 that receive a Beard Award, and that's in our partnership with Fairfield County's Community Foundation. And we also have the Elizabeth Freem, because she was also a founder of the Bridgeport Public Education Fund. So we like to recognize some of our other community organizations that are focusing on Bridgeport and youth and families by giving them the Elizabeth Freem Civic Award. And then we also have the George E. Bellinger Leadership Award that we provide to an administrator that, exhibits exemplary leadership skills in the Bridgeport Public Schools. And notice I keep saying Bridgeport Public Schools, because we know that everyone has a need, but we also understand that Bridgeport and the founders of the Bridgeport Public Education Fund were very intentional in focusing in on Bridgeport. So we try to do wraparound services with the hopes that our direct services with the youth, but also bringing our community partners together, that we can provide a continuum of care, if you will, for our families and our youth. Because we would be remiss to think that, if I provide some mentoring, some tutoring, and provide maybe semester stipends to students when they're in college, or we close tuition gaps for students as they are in their post-secondary program. So if a student says, Ms. Faith, I have a $2,000 bill here at 7 and I can't pay it, can you help me out? We send a check to the school. The student never, ever, ever has to pay that back to us. We don't even ask for them to pay it back for us. It's a gift to them because we committed to them in high school. And we want to see them succeed and come out on the other side, reaching their full potential. So we have a lot of programs, Carmen, and we have some more that are coming up. We are looking forward to doing some things in March, where we'll be sharing some of that stuff on our website. If you want to check it out, it's www.bpef.org or bpef.org. And you can also hear more about our success stories there. We have a number of students who have completed their doctorate degrees. We have many that have, completed masters and, all of the different levels. So we're really proud of that, because I think all of Fairfield County needs to know that our young people can succeed. You give them the opportunity, you give them the supports that they need, they're going to blow your mind away.
Yes, definitely with the organization like that they give you the boost to move on to the next level, and that's what some of our students are lacking, that support system that will push them forward to being a successful scholar. And I mean, I actually love school. That's always been my thing. School. I graduated from high school 2009. Went on to community college, was a tonic, and I knew it was sky's the limit. I'm like, I'm not going to limit myself just to have an associate's degree. I want to move on forward to get my master's, my bachelor's, master's, and my PhD. You know, so I'm on like getting motivated. You know, slowly but surely, but you know, and it's great. So do you keep in contact with a lot of your students that been in the program?
We absolutely do. So as I said, we have that high school program, which is called MACS, M-A-A-C-S, and it's an acronym, Mentoring for Academic Achievement in College and Career Success. Then we have our college assistance program. So for students that were in MACS and they say, hey, we want to continually get service from you guys while we're, young adults. That's fine. We follow them all the way through college, and fortunately, we have so many of them that come back to us because they love to share, pictures of graduations, but also sending us baby shower invitations. They send us wedding invitations. So we're really happy to see, that 14-year-old who is now a 30-year-old who's working, in broadcast over in California, or my Dr. Alex Wilhoit, who's now an academic dean at a school in Brooklyn, New York.
Wow.
So, or my young student who initially didn't think that she could succeed in any way, shape, or form, who graduates from college early.
Yes.
With honors at that. So it's those opportunities where they understand the relationship and they understand they really have my back. They really want to see me succeed. And that's what I think keeps them coming back. So I will never change my phone number because I want our young people to know that. But most importantly, we have some social media pages. So we do have Instagram, we have Facebook. What are the others? LinkedIn. We have all of the social media platforms, so our students can easily find us as well. Okay. And that's how we also reach out to our students and really just engage with them, because obviously, the engagement at 14 years old is different when they're 34 years old now. So it's like, I don't want to talk about that. But they come and they talk to us now about adult things like, I'm ready to buy a house. What should I do? Or I'm ready for graduate school. Can you help me fill out an application? I got a call from a student who said, Miss, I'm getting ready to graduate. I need you to help me think about my career pathway. And I'm just like, I'm still trying to figure it out for myself. But, definitely keeping in touch with our students, I think, is a hallmark. And we have a formal way of doing that, because we do ask for our students that are in post-secondary, so if they're still getting their education, reach out to us, let us know, and we'll send them checks. But for the most part, we are able to keep in contact with most of our students, if not all, through our social medias and just being present and being there.
That's great. That's great. I'm looking forward to, working with you in the community once again. Thank you very much for coming in today and being our special guest. And we look forward to, joining the team and helping out the young, students that look forward to going into higher education. So let's, give it up for Ms. Faith, our special guest for today. Thank you for checking in, ladies and gentlemen. Connecticut at your service. I'm your host, Sergio. Have a great night. Thank you for checking in.